And then down in South America, there's actually some sites. Monteverde, Chile is 12,500 years old, and they also are looking into the possibility of another area right around that same site that may be 33,000 years old. We have sites in Brazil that are 20,000, 18,000 years old. So obviously the clock needs to be pushed back for the migration. And part of that is the advancing and retreating of the ice sheets. Before, everyone thought that they came in through an ice-free corridor in Canada, and if they were coming through at even 15,000 years ago, that wouldn't have been an option. So they would would have had to come along the Pacific coast, or there is one theory that's being explored again of them actually coming along the Atlantic coast and coming down.
Mm-hmm.
But the dates are definitely need to be pushed back, and so that's why, to me, it's an interesting area to study.
And so these sorts of sites here in Idaho, are they somewhat of a recent discovery, or what's going on with those?
They've been discovered all within the last 100 years, which some consider recent, some don't. Most of them are controversial. They haven't done a lot of detailed work. There's been some radiocarbon dating done on them, but those are being disputed by others, saying there's possible contamination with them. So there's really nothing concrete on them yet. So that's why people hesitate to actually look into them or bring them up in this topic. So the oldest that we know of for sure that in Idaho for human remains is actually a girl found outside of Buell, Idaho, that was 9,000 years old. So people they have been in Idaho for a long time.
Is that unusual, or?
To find remains that are 9,000 years old is unusual. It happens with a certain amount of frequency, but 9,000 years is a long time to avoid complete deterioration of the bones. So you have to have the right context of soil in order to preserve that. And Idaho happens to be one of those places where we have a lot of fossilized remains. So not just human remains, but fossilized mammoth bones and camel and horse. Everyone knows about Hagerman, Idaho, very famous for the camel and the ground sloth. So we just have good conditions of preservation here.
Mm-hmm. And is there some sort of explanation then for the discrepancy in the time periods as to what was earlier thought and what is now being considered as a more viable time period for immigration?
It's all a matter of timing. Most of the theories that put it at Clovis being the oldest were developed in the 1950s and earlier, when they hadn't found a lot of these other sites and when radiocarbon dating was a new science, and they didn't have the technology that we have now to date sites, and so they kind of get stuck in this paradigm that we have this site and it's the oldest site that we've found, and so it can't be any nobody can be here before that, and so it's getting them to think outside the box from what they were taught when they went to universities. The older archaeologists, and it's a lot of the younger archaeologists coming up now that are doing more and more research into it.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it was just a matter of what they knew then and what we know now.
And so, compared to, say, German archaeology, then how is funding for archaeology in North America?
In North America, you can get a lot of funding through universities. There are private organizations that help fund things. You can get government grants sometimes. And sometimes the government's actually the ones doing the archaeology. Road crew goes out, accidentally digs up an arrowhead or something, and so they send a crew out and actually pay the archaeologist to go and excavate and research that area before they continue with any construction. So, and that's the most common archaeology being done these days in North America.